Let's go. Turn up. Let's go.
Well, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully you are doing well. Thank you so much for coming along for this ride. I'm pretty excited. Today's a big day. I kind of had forgotten about IBC, which is underway over in Amsterdam, and so that's pretty fun that we have that to talk about. Yeah, it's good stuff. So thanks for hanging out. Just checking my audio. I'm burning a little bit of time here because I wanted to check my audio and make sure that I could hear myself all right, which I can, so that's good news. I am underway. Yes, Angus, my blurred background here. Let me throw that up here so that everybody can understand what we're doing here. So good morning, Angus. Always good to see you. Thanks for stopping on by as usual. Hey, I like your blurred truck with the pre-show. I might try that next time. I usually go with the title slide at about 90% opacity with a wide shot visible underneath. Yeah, I like... I did a show last week about kind of the theory behind live streaming and how everything really just needs to be live. And so I kind of went full in on that theory that basically if you're watching a live show, then even the things that you would assume are like just title slides and stuff, those should also have a live element to them. And so that's kind of where I came up with that idea of having my lights are off, so I'm kind of in the shadows, but like you can see when I'm sitting at the desk ready to go, which also forces me to be ready to go. So that's a good thing for you and a good thing for me because you never know. Sometimes when the bet was off in terms of I could hide behind a title slide, then I wouldn't start on time. So that's not good, and that's not a good use of anybody that comes by live. I want to be sure that I'm conscious of what's going on there too. So sounds good here. Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. I don't know if you maybe noticed, I did add a new little title slide that goes off when I come to this camera. And it is just a little subscribe button that looks like this. And so I like it a lot. I've figured out how to do this inside of Canva. Actually, I was able to make it in Canva and then key out the background. I actually had a blue background on this one, so I used the keyer on that, and then I was able to key it out and then load it in as an overlay. So I like that a lot. It's one of those things. I know Tom Sinclair has some title triggers that go off, and so when he goes to a certain camera and he's on it for a certain amount of time, then his name appears and his title and all that. So I thought that's pretty cool. I don't think I need to necessarily have my name and title, but I do want to, remind people to subscribe to the channel. So there it is. And of course, that's also my opening screen and my shutdown screen. Now, there's been a lot going on, and several announcements inside of and lots I'm sure that I have missed, but several announcements inside of the NDI world, but also some exciting stuff that's come out from BirdDog, and we should review it. We should talk about that first before I get into my ranting about my security system, and I do plan on doing that as well. But inside the description on YouTube, you may have noticed that it does say, hey, also there's some announcements from BirdDog, and quite honestly, a few around the market that came to light in this week because they were launching things at IBC, so that's great. This coffee is cold, and so I'm going to switch on over to my non-sponsor, Ember Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. I try and drink it fast enough where the creamer doesn't get curdled, but I can only chug so much so quickly. However, this is a brand new cup, and it's nice and warm, so good stuff. My daughter is home. She's been home all week, sick with something. She kind of came down with something on Sunday morning or Saturday night, and it's been a roller coaster the past several days. So she is actually on the other side of the house. She's been isolated in her room. Amazingly enough, somehow we have not gotten sick, but there's still time. And my wife said, well, it might just be dormant, so we'll see how it goes. But anyways, she is here. There's a very small chance she might need to interrupt me, but she's in the other room watching a show, so she should be good at least for an hour, and hopefully that'll give me enough time to get through everything that we want to talk about, so that I want to talk about. And I'm open to whatever you guys want to talk about, so feel free to throw that in the chat. If you want to chat with me, I am live on Twitch and on YouTube. You can put anything in the chat there. It will show up in VMix Socials, and I can bring it in on screen. So feel free to do that. Now, let's talk about what's going on at IVC. So there are several announcements going on and several YouTube videos that have gone up, and I'm happy to show those. Let me jump over to, first and foremost, my former employer, the BirdDog Group. They have launched a new set of cameras, which is now known as the Max, but there's also a new keyboard, and the Pod has made its debut again. So, not debut then, I guess, it has made a reappearance. The Pod has a similar form factor to what it had right before I left, but I know that this unit has basically been reworked from top to bottom because the original design ended up not coming to light, mostly because parts and some programming and some limitations and certain things, and so it has been finished. As I understood it, it had been finished a little while ago, but then they were doing some rigorous testing and that sort of thing. Now, one complaint that'll just get out there out in the open is it doesn't appear that any of these products are shipping. So I know that we were racing to get to ISE, and that's probably where the excitement got a little bit ahead of us, but it probably would have been better to hold until April and then actually have them at the distributors and launch them at NAB, but that's just my own personal preference. ISC is a big conference. It's not as big as NAB, and so it might be as big now, but everybody's expecting the product launches at NAB, so I'm assuming what's going to happen here is they've announced these at ISE. Their plan is to have them all out by March, and then at April you're going to have hands-on, opportunities to kind of play around with these. Now, I've seen the keyboard actually being used and functioning. They even have a little tutorial video on how it all works. CJ has even gone an extra step, which bravo, CJ. Man, I have been begging you guys to do these little training tutorials in a semi-pro way, and you have one for the keyboard, so well done. That's been long overdue, and I'm so happy that it had gone live, at least when the announcement went out. Now, they're not for sale, so I don't know what the deal is, why we're announcing them before they're ready for sale. But maybe, again, as I stated last time, when they announced, what did they announce? Did they announce the keyboard? Yeah, they announced the keyboard with Anthony on his show, and Dan kind of did like a walkthrough on it. Maybe that come to market approach has changed. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, but we shall see, I guess. So I'm just checking the stream here, making sure that's working. Okay. So some announcements have come out, and they are showing them off at ISE. I see in videos from ISE that the products are actually there, and so that's cool. And they are ramping up production is the wordage that was put up on Facebook. I don't particularly like that language anymore because it's not doesn't really mean anything, I don't think. So ramping up production means that they're starting to put them together at the factory, or they're starting to ship them, because again, we've changed the way we do this at BirdDog, was what we said at NAB last year. So it hasn't even been a year yet of that messaging. So anyway, the products are there and they look pretty solid. I have good news and confirmation from some friends that good programming has gone into the keyboard, that they've had a hand in it, and so I'm thrilled to hear that, and that people that I trust have signed off on it. So that's good. I'm glad to see. I mean, I trust people, but people who I'm a lot more comfortable if they sign off on it. Those folks have signed off on it, and that's good. So the keyboard is in good shape, evidently, and the training videos are actually quite neat about how that product works. It seems like it has been well thought out and hammered over, and I hope that it will be rigorous enough to handle several years in the field, like daily use for 5 years. That would be great. Time will tell. You never know when a new product comes out what its kind of longevity is going to be, and that's a risk that you take being an early adopter. But the old keyboard, other than some anomalies here and there, to be honest with you, could take a beating. The original joystick was kind of not great, but they replaced it with a better one, and you could have it replaced with a better one. So, and that joystick was a lot better. So they definitely learned from experience and applied that. They didn't just continue, steady down the middle and not making any changes. So I'm happy that has been going on, and that BirdDog seems to be learning from those mistakes. I pre-ordered the pod over a year ago. I get emails from AV Shop about once a month saying that they still have no ETA. It is mighty frustrating. Yeah, so I don't know kind of who decided what with the pod. They didn't necessarily want to say, hey, we're not making it anymore. Hang on, coffee. Or, hey, we got to change what we're doing. But it appears that is what's happened, is basically it's a completely new rebuild. And quite frankly, I think that you wanted it to be rebuilt. Now, the fact that your money's been locked up for a year is not cool. And maybe they'll say something about that. But the pod has been relaunched. And that's actually here on the table. Now, one thing I don't understand about the pod is why you wouldn't just use a software solution like NewTek Connect to just convert NDI signals on the computer you're using it to be a USB signal. That is literally what I'm doing here. Because you can go the other way, right? You can bring in, or NDI webcam. You can bring in any NDI source via NDI webcam and convert it into a local source, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or do I have that backwards? Hang on. Let me open this. So yeah, webcam, you select what source you want it to pull from. We say, I want my camera from here, and then I can bring that in locally into vMix. And so there's already a free version for that. Now, perhaps this is so that if I am, and I'm 100% sure this is what it is, if I'm Joe Schmo, president of, ABC company, and I come in with my Bojank laptop that my IT department has issued me and hasn't updated in 10 years, but I have Zoom, I can plug in to the conference room and pull the camera, perhaps this Max, which we'll talk about next, pull that into my computer as my webcam, and then, have this semi-pro production camera. Cool. Yeah, okay. I could see that. I could see like people that are non-techie making it very tactile for them. That might make sense. My first gen keyboard has been a workhorse for years. It's always been a pain to wrangle presets, but I can get nice smooth moves out of it. It's simple. Lockdown client laptops. I do a lot of work where I need a feed to feed a computer on a corporate network. I don't connect my stuff to their network, and you better believe that I'm not letting their stuff onto my NDI network. Pod will make a lovely isolator. The Blackmagic A10 Minis are a good option to doing the same thing. There you go. So if you're using NDI and you have an NDI network, then and everything's locked up in corporate environments. So, but it seems to me, though, that it takes away from the traditional clientele of BirdDog, and maybe this is their attempt of widening their audience, is it takes away from their traditional clientele, who are people that don't really have isolated NDI networks necessarily. But cool. I mean, I would, love to make NDI sources local for anybody. And if that's in that instance, if it's USB-C, right? It's not HDMI, but it's USB-C, then you could integrate this, I guess, in smaller platforms, anything that would take USB-C. But yeah, schools, hospitals, lecture rooms, not really churches, but there's still a pretty wide market, I think, for something like that. And that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. Where's my soundboard when I need... Oh, hang on. Whoa. I thought I had a soundboard, but I don't. I'll work on that. I'll be better. So, pretty cool. Their next kind of major thing was a new line of cameras, the BirdDog Max. I watched Dan's announcement of this, and really, this is a boardroom camera. Okay. So well, anyway, okay. So I don't know if it were me, I don't know if I would market it as just a boardroom option. Maybe something like your next conference room camera because you want to widen up that concept. Not everybody has a boardroom. Matter of fact, most companies don't have a boardroom, only big ones. And then what, do they need one? So, you need to sell enough so I would market this maybe as your next conference room camera, because conference rooms are everywhere, but not necessarily boardrooms. And this looks, this marketing looks really nice, by the way. Kudos to Alexandro if you're still there. Nice and clean, fits right into the aesthetics of the room. And they also have several colors. And so, maybe that's part of it. But I know that in the video that Dan had said, I've got colors for all occasions, which will hopefully fit into, your boardroom aesthetics. And so, okay, that's cool. When I watched the video, and maybe we'll do this together, when I watched the video from the floor of ISE, they didn't really go into many specs about the camera other than it's like an ultra wide, or maybe it's a wide angle lens, and it has a 12 times optical. But everything else, it was pretty much like there was nothing else in there that was said, at least, that made the feature list, other than it's a new camera. Now, I'm pretty excited about the price on this one. It seems to be the replacement for the P100, right? But so the price point's in that ballpark. They still don't have a sub $500 camera. And with the spec list, I guess I would kind of expect these specs, maybe not the 12 times optical, on a sub 500 camera, like a $500 camera. So, but they have all the video formats. They even do 4K out the HDMI and the NDI at 30 frames, which is fine for a boardroom. You really don't need you don't need 4K 60 in a boardroom. It is a wide view, so I'm interested in that. I like that the f-stop is 1.88. That is quite low, but typical for a Sony sensor. I like the fact that you can do that, because that might give you that might open this camera up to being more than just a boardroom camera, having that f-stop in there. So I would be interested to see the performance of that. Focus, auto and manual. Okay, good. Exposure, all the things that you'd expect. Backlight compensation, I don't even know why they put that in there anymore. That's either expected or, well, okay, fine. Maybe there's one guy out there that needs to know that information. I'm assuming that's the sound rating, sound to noise ratio, 50 decibels. That's pretty low. That's pretty low. So I like that. I'm assuming there's no fan inside this camera. Effective pixels, 8.29 megapixels. Okay, cool. Pan tilt. This is all the used 255 presets. That's expected on a camera like this. So that's good. They hit all the marks there. Your NDI format. You notice that we're all HX right now. So back when we launched the X series, meaning back when we saw the X series launch, I had nothing to do with it. The question was, hey, why is this all HX now? And they said, no. In the future, we're still NDI full. Well, here's another line of cameras that are HX only. And so that's fine, but still scratching our heads about that one. Control interface, 100/100. Okay, and network interface is 100 megs. All right. Okay. Is the price difference really that much? I know you don't need a gigabit port. I know you don't. I'm aware. I get it. But all right. I'm over that now. I'm really not, but I'm over it. I won't talk about it anymore. So controls, Visca, again, Visca IP, NDI controls, those other protocols, guys, like, you just get rid of those, I think. We're 12 volt PoE, AF, which is just straight PoE. It's not PoE plus, so that's kind of nice. Your PoE budget's going to be low. At 2 amps, 13 watts, so you could even buy a third-party DC, like a universal DC power adapter for something like this. If you misplace yours or you throw it away when you get it and then realize in 6 months you need it, those things are less than $20 online. So that's cool that the power requirements are that low. Or one better, you could do a PoE injector and do a single cable to it. And I think this is where BirdDog really shines, is the single cable integration. I'm not just saying that as a BirdDog fanboy, because as you know, I've been openly critical about BirdDog over the years, and even more so since I am no longer their employee. But I think one of the BirdDog specialities is one cable to rule them all, and that is such a cool integration thing. If you understand the networking side and you do yourself correctly and get yourself a 4250 or a 4350 or maybe even the Ubiquiti ones, get yourself a proper AV switch, and these things are wonderful for that. And so I'm a big fan of the PoE world. I love the fact that this is just PoE is all this is right here. It's strictly under 15 watts. So, and it maxes out at 13 watts, which means you won't brown out this camera if you're running all the motors and the lens and everything all at once. So that's cool stuff. So, you know, the Max has some interesting features. I really want to see it, and I'm going to make every effort to get to NAB this year, and so I will plan on seeing it there. I might even bring a camera to do a little review on it while I'm at the booth. We'll see. We'll see what time permits, but I think we're going to try and go for a couple of days, so we might be able to see all of these products in action and ask a few questions. Not that they'll want to answer them, but RS232, we're still doing that. Okay. You just get rid of that, guys. Is this the USB-C for the UVC, I'm assuming? Elegant, affordable excellence. I mean, if you're going to go this far into... Yeah, if you're going to go this far into the NDI world, you're going to pay $1,000 for a camera, then you might as well forget the UV. What is it? Something video, universal video. The USB-C port, you might as well forget that and integrate it either using software or using a pod or something. Just go all in, because there's no point in monkeying around with that. What's really cool too is I have one of these. You can get a little USB-C, either a dongle or a desktop unit that you can mount, and you could run this camera directly into that interface probably, and then have like an anchor. So we had one at the BirdDog office, and I have a couple here now because I like them so much there. I bought them for my house and my wife's workspace in particular. And you could mount these to the desk, run all these cables to a hub, and then it's a single 40 gigabit USB-C plug-in into any laptop, which then you could run power to that thing, which would then charge your laptop, provide a camera, provide the audio if you need it, maybe even run the output of your screen to that monitor that's there. You know, you could really make it work. And that little product is like $80. So $80 for that. You get a little pod, which is what, $150. We'll go there next. And then, or is it $250? And then this little camera, you're all in on your conference space for $1,500. I mean, that's pretty cool. Now, how you control the camera in your conference room? Are we like the question I have is, are you planning on providing control for this thing? Are you relying on AI to do that? The questions are abundant. Maybe we'll find out more at NAB in a few months. I'm sure that I'm not the target market for this. especially with the force source selection buttons. I'd rather have no controls on it whatsoever. Max. Yes. Welcome, Frank. Good to see you, buddy. 90 degrees field of view, signal to noise ratio, full NDI is still to come. So that's cool. I'm glad to hear that full NDI is still kind of out there. Quite frankly, if comparing the two, I'm wondering if this is the conversation that you guys are having, but is there any point? I mean, is there any point in doing full NDI anymore? With HX3, state the case for full NDI. Maybe that's a question that we need to ask the NDI doctor and the the people at the manufacturers. So BirdDog, PTZ Optics, who have never done full NDI as far as I know. But the only other major player in the full NDI world doesn't make cameras anymore, and that was NewTek, because they don't exist anymore. So it's kind of a weird. They went full on software. Now, full NDI, remember, is software only outputs full NDI. So vMix, the NDI output that I'm actually watching on my confidence monitor, that's full NDI. And then any software that converts, with the exception of Bridge, right? But any software that converts a output to NDI is full NDI. So unless that's changed. But the only exception to that rule is NDI Bridge, and I think they're holding that information hostage. I don't know why. But I think they're holding it hostage. And so everybody outputs full NDI, which again, if you're running HX on everything and then your one output is full NDI, you're probably well underneath your bandwidth. But there it is. Greetings, everyone. What's going on, Go Web? Always a pleasure to see you. Welcome to the BirdDog overview before we get into me shifting gears and talking about cameras. In particular, security cameras, and why I'm kind of frustrated with Reolink. So Max is kind of the second major announcement. We'll go back here. The keyboard was the first. Max is the second. And, of course, Pod is the third. And so we're going to take a quick little look at the reintroduction of Pod. NDI to USB webcam. And we've talked about this a little bit already. But, okay, looks like Pod's running for $250. Okay. So again, that's still not a huge backbreaker in terms of conference rooms and boardrooms if you have this integrated. You can link up to 4 NDI sources to it, evidently. So that's kind of neat. Again, just versatility. What I have learned by working with professors and doctorate folks is you want to eliminate as many buttons as possible on your on your conference table or your podium. And you want to have a big green button that says go and a big red button that says stop, which, by the way, X-Keys makes those. You want to have these big green and red go and stop buttons, and you want them to basically do everything for you, and Companion could automate all that for you. So if there's an API for Pod that allows you to change the sources, and you could put that on an X-Keys and punch the buttons and it would do it, that would be amazing. I think that's for integration, for Crestron and all of those companies, I think that would be kind of the next logical step if it's not already done. API controls, so it claims to have it ready to go, and that's great. So we are looking at full integration of this little product. The buttons on it then seem to be maybe secondary. Now, it doesn't have a microphone array, right? So automatic source detection, choose your color. Okay, so it doesn't have mics loaded that I can tell. Let's take a little peek at this video real quick and hold the phone. Let's open this up, and I just want to be sure that you guys can hear this. Okay, so the line being "feels so alive" for the very first time. That's funny because this is the second launch. So I don't know. I don't know if they meant for that to be as funny as it is, but the relaunch of Pod. This is Pod 1.1. Is shipping in March. Okay, cool. That's fine. I think you would have a bigger impact if you just waited till NAB when it was in the distributor's hands. But there you go. It can't be a perfect world. So I don't see anything about a microphone arrays or anything like that. So you're still limited to the whatever microphone system you have on your computer, which means that people are still going to have to know how to navigate Zoom and Skype. I want to, and this is great. Pod being out is wonderful. I'm really excited about that. I'm an audio guy as well, and so I think how are we going to capture audio? If the camera comes in as a source, it doesn't pick the audio coming over the NDI camera, right? There's no onboard microphones on the Macs, so why would you do that? So hopefully, I guess you could use. So if you had a microphone in the room, you could marry it to the NDI signal and then link that to the source, to all the sources even. And then when you plug in the device, then it just picks that one automatically. That would be ideal. They have those ceiling tiles, right, that are basically like microphone arrays. And if you can convert that to NDI and then marry it to this signal, that'd be cool. That'd be pretty neat. So there are options, but I think for a crappy microphone on your laptop, you could get away with $1,500. You get a camera, get the pod, get the little hub that joins all of these sources together, and then send secondary monitor or mirrored monitor over to your screen. That would be really, really kind of cool to have that level of integration. Give me 1 second here. Back to socials. Okay, so I do hope that the buttons can be disabled. I want no controls. I wouldn't want mics on it either. Audio should be from NDI. Well, and that's what I mean, right, is you could use the microphone arrays, or you could use a microphone in the room or something like, or like drop a pendulum microphone at the desk so that everyone can be heard. PoE is a plus. I think, honestly, this is... If my recommendations were be taken seriously, and they're not, by the way, I'm just some Joe Schmo these days. Everything that a company, an integration company makes should be PoE. It should be assumed that it'll be PoE. Like, I think that was one of the hurdles that we really struggled with when Play came out, is that it wasn't PoE. And the PoE option would have added a significant increase in heat and price. So, fair enough. But man, if you're going to make products that integrate like this, and Angus is 100% correct, you want nothing to be in the hands of any CEO in a boardroom. You seriously don't. You want them to plug it in, and you want it to work the same every single time. You want it to sound great. You want it to look great. Take away the even picking sources and all that. Don't do that. And so PoE on all your devices, running a wire from your 4250 into this pod. It powers it up. It boots it for you. Curious about heat management with something like this, because I know that was a bit of an issue when Play came out. We all know that. And so heat management, how does that look? Be curious what the insides of it look like, but I'll probably never get to see that. But yeah, how are we doing heat management? If it's silicone, that thing actually insulates. It doesn't distribute heat. And so it claims to be that. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because a product like this and a product like the Max, but quite honestly, the way that it's being marketed is going to sit and do nothing for 90% of its life. It's going to sit in a conference room that probably gets used once a day, maybe, and the camera is going to sit in a conference room, the same conference room that gets used less than 10% of the day. And so it's going to sit there empty, waiting to be used. So when you go to use it, it's got to work. It's got to work every time. Because otherwise, if you're only using it 10% of every day or less, if it doesn't work every time seamlessly, they're like, get out of here. Like, it's got to be simple. It's got to be simple. Yeah, I want it to point to my vMix output and nothing else. Hey, we're shipping. They're shipping in March, says GoWeb. I hope so. I hope so. I have a play. I have never once been satisfied with its importance, with its performance. Sorry. It is important, but the performance was always an issue. So at BirdDog, I can speak a little bit to this. At BirdDog, when I was there, we used PoE injectors and found that, we used PoE splitters. And I ran PoE from my switch to behind the TV, and then I plugged that into the splitter and ran DC into the from DC to USB-C. How did I do that? I can look up the products, but anyways, I ran a splitter and basically powered it still over PoE because it's a really light unit. So you can force it to be PoE enabled. You just have to buy the PoE splitter yourself. But that way it got the power that it required. And I bought an adjustable PoE, so it was like $20. So I bought an adjustable one so you could pick the voltage that you wanted, so it would be appropriate for the unit and not be underpowered or overpowered. Overpowered, you're just going to end up frying the thing over time. So be sure that you're powering it correctly and get an adjustable one if you want, if you can. But I sent it PoE and then I split it and then I ran that into the play. And we, this was in the early days of play. And so, yeah, performance was a bit of a problem, but we were working with a installation, I'll just go as far as that to say, an installation in Orlando, and they were trying to, make it as unsightly as possible. And so that was one of the things that I was like, look, I'm doing this. I know it can work this way, and it removes all the DC needs from. Now, people said, well, you can just plug it in USB into the TV. Unfortunately, no. We found out too late that most TVs, that USB port is a service port, and so it's 1 volt or 1.1, which is not enough for the play to run all the time. So it needed to be the next level port, which is like 2.5 volts or something like that, or 2.0 volts? Anyway, regardless, I ended up running PoE to it, and that worked really well. I mean, it was consistent. And then you could set a PoE schedule on that 4250 and turn on and off the pod as needed. Or you could even plug it all into a smart switch and turn the TV off when you're not using it. And so we did that for quite a while. No idea if that's still going on. We had a giant TV that came to us from one of the trade shows, and we put it on a cart, and that was the way that we tested NDI feeds and looked for artifacting and looked for things. We had like a 75-inch or something like that, which I might get a cheap one for my next office build. But anyway, so that was the way that I did PoE on the play, and it worked pretty well. And then we got the heat stuff kind of sorted out. Oh, yeah, Frank says here, we got vents and I believe a fan. So this is for the pod. So it's got vents and I believe a fan, and it went through extensive heat testing. I'm sure it did. So the second version of the play also, we put vents in it and a fan, and that seemed to help move some of the air past away from the processing stuff. So, yeah, I have a couple of USB-C PD PoE splitters, useful little units. Seriously, I can use those things everywhere. Darn thing doesn't work well at all. That's fascinating. Full NDI or HX, it just won't give me a smooth output. That is interesting. That might be something that you have to contact support about, because I'm pretty sure they ironed all that out. Is it a Gen 1 or a Gen 2? So I'm excited about pod. I mean, I really hope that it is ready. And honestly, there was no time crunch to get this out at this point, because it was announced, 2 years ago, and never came out. And so I think everybody's been kind of just putting that out of their mind. But this is one of the first of its kind, and it got BirdDog's aesthetics to it, and it has very simple ease of use, and it has the API. And so I think that as long as it's ready, because there's no point in announcing it until it's ready, because nobody's waiting. So, and when it's when it's announced, it better be ready to go. And it's shipping in March, and so the word on the street is they're ramping up production. Those are words from the team over in Europe right now, but they're ramping up production. So it's a Gen 1 no fan. Yeah, email support. We can get you a free swap with a fan play. It has way better performance. I agree with this, by the way. And so Frink, if he's doing something relatively close to what it was when I left him, if he says that and it's not true, it's going to be a world of hurt for him. So you can take him at his word. I would arrange. Now, Angus is out in Edmonton, so might be a bit of a challenge to get him something. But if you can get it swapped, do it. The Gen 2s are better, and they can get you kind of hooked up. And Angus, maybe you'll feel a lot different about your little play unit if they can get you a Gen 2. So Pod, there it is. I'm happy to see the progress. My only kind of bummer about this is that they're not at the distributors. So I know we got probably pretty excited about this, and we've been sitting on our hands and tape over Dan's mouth for heaven knows how long. I really hope that you can buy them when we're at NAB. I hope all three of these products are ready for purchase. Every variation of it, it's all ready to go. I think that would be the next best thing, you know. So there you go, BirdDog. Well done. Pretty excited to see what this all looks like. I have seen this little screen on the keyboard is quite nice. And they're doing you can watch the actual output. And CJ has a great video that shows a little tutorial. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I do like this, that you can access the web UI from the actual device. I mean, that's really smart. And I hope that, yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer. Now, the next thing would be to be able to switch the HDMI output on your cameras to show this somehow, show the web UI, like an API command that switches the output of the HDMI to be the web UI. Wouldn't that be cool? Like, then if the camera's packed up, you can switch it and no passwords required. You can see what it is, what's going on. And maybe it just does a cycle like this where it just shows you the stats and it shows you what the settings are and what's wrong with it. I mean, that'd be pretty cool too. But anyways, we'll just log that into the wish list for BirdDog. So here's hoping, guys. Question about that button on top of the joystick. Is it assignable now? Frank, do you know? Because it'd be great for like an autofocus button or whatever, but I think it would be far more useful to be a shift button. As CJ was explaining in the video that I saw, you hold down the shift button and then you get that fine motor control. Wouldn't it make sense to just have a one-handed option for there? So hopefully that's possible. If it's assignable and you can assign it as the shift button, that would be amazing, because then your operator doesn't have to use his left hand. He can just click it with the right hand and steer it around. You know what? I'm sure you guys thought of that. So there you go. Very good, very good. Are we still watching? I'm not watching that little jokester. No, I'm not watching that anymore. All right, so good news. I'm excited to see what's going on over there at BirdDog. Well done. Pretty excited. What's going on, Zach? Good morning. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for stopping by. I believe Christian said that it is assignable now. We had a discussion about this last time. Well, that's good. Frank says there are 3 options for its functionality, I believe. Is shift one of them? Here's hoping. There's another video talking about some of its other features. Yes. I don't have it on right now, meaning the keyboard. Okay. Well, all in good time. I'm sure that all the brilliance of this device is going to come out here. Seamless control, super fine. When it's time for fine tuning, you can easily shift the camera's joystick into fine tuning mode, increasing sensitivity. Still doesn't say if you can use that button for that, though. Anyway, all good. So that's cool. I mean, those are good announcements. I hope they're all ready to go in March. That's my time will tell if we have learned our lesson or not, right? If ramping up production really means they're in production. Good times. Hey, it's snowing here. Nice. It is not snowing here. It's 70 degrees outside. It's amazing. I was driving in the car yesterday, going to go pick up some meds for my daughter, and I had the windows rolled down. This was at night. The sun had been down for an hour. I was driving to the store and was like, this is February. This is unbelievable. You can also turn it off. Right on. Yeah, February, it's 70 degrees in Tennessee. So it's going to be a furnace in January or July. All right, let's talk a little bit about today's major topic. And I just want to make sure that... let's talk about today's major topic. And then I was asked to make a little tutorial about my world map feature that I used to have back in the BirdDog days. And so I want to record that so I can send it over to my friend Fritz, who works, or at least used to work for iHeartRadio. But anyways, I'm going to do that for him today as well. So we're 45 minutes into the show, and we're just getting to the main topic about today's live stream. But here we go. Let's keep moving along. So I have a Reolink security camera system on my house. I actually had it when I lived back in Michigan, and I moved it here. And it has served me well in many ways, but there are some things that are kind of grating on my nerves that Reolink seems to not really understand, and I'll get into that why I'm kind of giving up on them. Now, first and foremost, there are several different types of Reolink webcams for your office, home, whatever. And it's kind of like the Ubiquity system where I can buy cameras individually and then add them to an app that I have, and they have onboard storage, which is nice, little SD cards, but they also have the ability to, you can buy an NVR for it. And so you could have continuous recording. However, that's a different type of system. So Reolink doesn't really do a great job in explaining that they have two different flavors of systems. First, they have a PoE version where the cameras are constantly on and the NVR is constantly recording. And you can buy an NVR and load big hard drives in it, and they can record for days, and it's just a constant thing. They also have like a consumer level version, like a residential consumer level, and that's the one that I have. And I've enjoyed using it for a time, but part of the reason why I really wanted a system like this was because I could put them anywhere and basically hook them up to power supplies or solar panels and then run them off the batteries when needed. I have 7 cameras in my rig, and 6 of them are plugged in right now. I have another one downstairs that I don't really have a home for yet. But I have 7 cameras in this rig, and they cover everything from my front back doors, my driveway, my garage interior, and then a couple of cameras in my kids' room that we had always used as baby monitors because I can check on them anywhere in the world. And then, another camera that was on the back porch or something like that. But anyways, I've got several of these cameras, and they're all battery operated. They all have internal batteries, and that was fine, except I was planning on putting these in places that were hard to reach. And I don't know why you wouldn't, because that's where cameras go. You want a wide field of view, much like what apparently appears to be the BirdDog Max. You want a wide field of view, you want them to be weatherproof, and you want them to be able to capture whatever it is that happens inside of the space that it's looking at, but they all come with batteries. Well, how is that going to work? Because I don't want to be climbing up on ladders every week, charging batteries or replacing batteries. That seems stupid. So what have I done? Well, a lot of the outdoor cameras, I've just purchased the Reolink solar panels and plugged those in, and they work just fine. They charge the batteries when the sun is out, but the batteries themselves will last a couple of weeks without any sun. And so the likelihood that we're going to get 2 weeks of no sun is pretty unlikely. And they have actually worked quite well. Solar panels have been pretty good. So I'm a big fan of the Reolink solar panels, and they spit out to a USB micro. And that's what is on the back of the charging port of all the batteries and all the cameras. They're all USB micro. So, okay, cool. So I've purchased the micro ones, and then I thought, well, inside my kids' rooms, like I don't want to constantly be going into their rooms and finding out the battery's dead and then having to replace it or charge it up or yada, yada, yada. That seems like a lot of work. And so I bought wall outlets and ran long USB cables to them, and they just say permanently charged. And if the power goes out, then they just turn into independent mode and they just record locally. And then when the power comes back, then they turn back on. And I'm constantly blowing breakers in this house. So that happens quite often. Regardless, there is a computer app called Reolink. It's just the Reolink app that you can run on a Windows computer. At least I run it on my Windows computer. And you can use the cameras then as like a multi-viewer where you can see all the cameras. The problem with the battery cameras, which are all of the ones that I have, is that they go into sleep mode after about 2 minutes of inactivity. And that is 2 minutes of inactivity on the camera. So like the PIR sensor didn't go off. And I wanted to have a camera system where I could look at the multi-viewer and see the cameras live. And then when I turn them off, fine if they need to go to sleep and wait until the sensor goes off. But, in the multi-viewer mode, like you would think a security system would run, that they would just keep the cameras active. So I asked about this to support, and I sent a thing off to Reolink support, and they said, we'll be back to you in 24 hours. They're actually back to me in 48 hours. So actually they did not keep to that expectation. But okay, fine. They still got back to me, which, a tech company that gets back to you, that's great. And I appreciate that, even if it wasn't within the allotted time that I expected. But they got back to me and said, well, that's because all your units have batteries. And so if you were to run constantly recording, then the batteries would drain really fast. Okay. So I said, well, I have them plugged into power sources. Shouldn't that negate the need to sleep them? And shouldn't there be an option that, like, when I'm plugged into a power source, don't sleep the units, or at least don't sleep them when I log in to look at them in the multi-viewer? And the response they came back was, no, you don't understand. If they're on, they're recording. And so if they're constantly recording, they're going to drain the batteries real fast. So you don't want that. You want them just to kick off when they are, you just want them to record when they see something they need to record. Okay, so then I wrote back and said, I don't quite think you're understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying, shouldn't there be an option, regardless of what the battery status is? Like, maybe I don't care about the batteries. I want, when I log into the multi-viewer, I want to see those cameras running. And if I leave it up for an hour, I don't want them to go to sleep. I want to watch them. And they wrote back, and this guy literally said to me, you're the one that doesn't understand. And I was like, whoa. He said, when the cameras are on, they're recording. And so when they're recording, they're going to use a lot of battery. So you don't want them to use a lot of battery. You want them to go to sleep so that they don't drain the batteries. So evidently, when I connect to my cameras inside the Reolink app, regardless of the attitude of the support agent, which, look, support, it's a rough gig. It's a rough gig. Hats off to anybody working support. Might not say, that might not have used those words, but maybe the guy's new, or maybe not. Anyway, he said, apparently, when I connect my cameras to the multi-viewer software, they're recording on the hard drive, on the SD cards. That's the impression I got, was when I connect to them, they start recording. And then when they stop seeing motion, they stop recording and they turn off on this like Reolink software. So what I'll do is I will just give you an example here. I probably should have had this running anyways. But here is the Reolink software. This is my backyard. And then I have a driveway, which is supposed to be connected. Now, what is going on here? Can I cycle this? All right, our backyard's connecting. So both of these cameras are now running and evidently recording, as far as I understand. Now, both of these cameras are connected via solar panel, and they both, at least the driveway one, says that it's charging. Now, there is not much sun out right now. So that's impressive if it's actually capturing something that it can use for power. Maybe not. Maybe it just thinks it, but it's not really. But batteries are full. They got good Wi-Fi connection here at the house. So all of that is great. But give it about 2 minutes, and I'm going to get a message that says, hey, this camera is about to go to sleep because it hasn't seen any motion in the past 2 minutes, and to conserve battery. Do you want to conserve battery? And then it says confirm or cancel. Well, if you don't read that, your brain would think, at least my brain thinks, that it would be asking, do you want to keep it active? Right? Confirm. Actually, what it does is it puts it to sleep. And so the default position for all Reolink battery leveled cameras are go to sleep. Go to sleep when you don't see something, which is a bit weird because, again, if I have software that shows it as a multi-viewer, you would assume that I want to see the cameras. Like if I have it up and running, the assumption should be I want to see what's being done on these cameras. Now, I have a front door camera, which is a doorbell, and you can run that full time all the time. It never turns off. But it's hardwired in to the system. It has constant power, and it's actually hardlined into the system. It's connected via Wi-Fi, but they can also switch to recording locally, which is nice. But after a certain period of time, and I think it's 2 minutes, after a certain period of time, then they do turn off. And if you don't catch it, they turn off. If you look away from here and you're working on something and you look back, they turn off. Even though they're hardline, they're plugged into constant power. Now, I did say, hey, when I wrote support, I said, hey, I actually have them plugged into wall warts and solar panel. Or I said, I have them plugged into power sources. And so shouldn't I have the option? And he said, you should not ever have these plugged into power sources. And I was like, well, they're Reolink solar panels, like they shouldn't be plugged into those. So you're telling me that Reolink sells a solar panel, but I shouldn't use it because it's a battery camera. So I was royally confused by the messaging. It seemed like somebody had said, don't plug it in DC power, but they have the option to plug it in via solar panel. So he kind of, when I asked him that, he skirted around that and said, no, it's just going to destroy the battery inside, and eventually the battery's going to die. And I was like, well, I don't really care about the battery because I have them plugged in via DC, so shouldn't I have the option to watch these live all the time? And he said, no, that's not a feature that these cameras have, which I think is bogus. Go with Unify Protect. I've actually installed a Unify Protect system at a friend's business. He wanted everything on an app, but he also wanted it a locally stored NVR. And I installed that. That seemed to work okay, although it had that classic, this was 5 years ago, had that classic clunkiness that Unify used to have, like adopting things or whatever. But all good. All my Reolink cameras are PoE with an NVR. So you have the next or the other version of their cameras, and those are all hardlined. And that was my problem in Clarkston, in Michigan, is that I didn't really have a way to hardline things back to a switch. There was no pathway from the eavesdrops where I could drop them down into a room where I could run, a PoE switch or something like that on my network and connect it all to my network. So that was kind of an issue. Now here I have more access to attic spaces and eavesdrops and that sort of thing. So I could get to those places a little bit more accessibly. And I do like the image quality of these cameras, like this is the highest resolution that it gives, but even the Fluent version, which is low res, even the Fluent version is, is good. Like it's quite a decent image for coming over Wi-Fi and being on the other side of the house, So I like that. And it regularly goes off when UPS shows up and when the mailman shows up and whatever. It tells me that, I can see it clearly. Now you can set up messaging as well, where it says, somebody's in the driveway, and you can set it up like my doorbell does that. When it's like somebody pressed the doorbell, it sends me a text message. So I like that a lot. But the overall frustration is these things are constantly going to sleep. And if I use like the 4x4 view, which is all of my outside cameras. So there's the doorbell, and I believe this one is the garage, which is not loading. when I'm sitting here and I'm watching the exterior of the house, I don't want them to go to sleep. I want them to stay active, and I want to see it constantly. And I don't know why that's not an option. Even if my batteries get drained or go dead, like that's up to me to decide. But I want to sit here like a security officer and watch these. And so these things are completely inappropriate for pretty much anything but reactive surveillance. Basically saying who was at the door, not who is at the door. If somebody pulls in the driveway, I'm not going to find out about it until after I look back at the footage. And a lot of security systems are reactive. You don't have an active security guard. But I happen to be sitting here in my house at this desk most of the time. So I could be sitting here watching these cameras live on one of my 4 screens. But instead, they sleep, and that's very annoying. So now I've changed the display a little bit here, and so it probably restarted. With the factory hard drive, I get about a week of constant recording. I have an HDMI monitor connected to the NVR. It gives me a lovely, always live multi-viewer. Also, that's ridiculous, is what Angus says. I agree. I do think it's ridiculous. I think that there should be an option, especially because I have them plugged in via DC. So there's no reason for them to go to sleep while I'm not watching them, but there's nothing you can do. The guy told me there's not an option. We're not working on that. We're not planning on that. And so I'm kind of like, done. First of all, customer service, they did get back to me, but I probably won't contact them again because that was not a pleasant experience. It was more like, no, you're wrong. Let me tell you why you're wrong. You're using these cameras for a way that they're not intended to be used. Oh, by the way, website says nothing about any of that. The website doesn't say you shouldn't use DC power on these cameras. The website doesn't say that you shouldn't use their solar panels, which is what this guy basically told me. So what gives, man? Your website says, your website at the very least purposefully leaves critical information out for a security, like a surveillance system. And I would expect this surveillance system to do basic surveillance things like, I don't know, show me live cameras for the entire time I'm using the software. But instead I get this ridiculous pop-up message that says, we're going to put this camera to sleep now because nothing has happened on this camera for 2 minutes. And I'm like, no, keep it live. Keep it live at all times. That's what I want. Yeah, nuts to that. So if I'm going to go to all this trouble of running PoE cables all over the place, then, what do people recommend? I like the lenses and the Reolink stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to getting this brand again, but a different system, essentially, an NVR system. But I don't know necessarily, and Unify Protect is out there. Are they still, are they still around? Because I thought Unify Protect kind of packed up, but maybe not. I know they were kind of going to like business integration. They're doing like door locks and things, but I don't know if that is still a thing. I've kind of lost touch with them. Reolink, let me punch in here. Reolink security camera system. So these will be the PoE ones. And these cameras, how many cameras can I get for like $300? 4. So you could get 4 cameras. All right, let me do this. Let me just see. This error message hasn't popped up yet, but this is kind of what we're looking at. You can get white or black ones. But these, I have these bullet cameras outside, similar ones, and they all run back to a NVR, right? Oh, and the NVR has the PoE ports on it? Where's the NVR images? Oh, there. Look. This operation, no operation for long. Let's try that again. No operation for long. To save power, do you want to disconnect? The device driveway will be disconnected automatically in 13 seconds. If you click cancel, it stays active. Come on, man. You got to give me the option to turn that off. Also, please run your wordage through your error messages through ChatGPT to make sure that they make sense. Look, no operation for long. To save power, do you want to disconnect? The device backyard will disconnect. it's garbage, man. It's totally. It's so stupid. I hate that. All right. Well, now we've seen the error message. I don't need to do that. Okay, here we go. So this guy, I want to see these pictures, and I want to see the back of the NVR. Yeah, okay, so these are PoE ports on the NVR. That's kind of cool. You're limited to 8, so maybe that's part of the problemo, is that what on earth? What the heck is that camera? Jeez. Do they have a larger NVR? I'm sure they do. Honestly, I'm 100% happy with my Reolink PoE cameras. I would buy all the same stuff again without hesitation. Yes, Protect is still around. I'm adding a few PTZs here shortly at home after this cold snap. There have been some amazing items that have come out recently. The NVR has its own PoE power, its own PoE supply for an isolated network. You can connect cameras to your own network and it will see them through the management network port. And it works like a charm. Okay, so if I can't get them all back down to the same spot, then there is a way to attach them to the network and then they continue to work. So Reolink. Let's take a look here real quick. Because this is going to be like a way more extensive. I guess 8 ports is probably then sufficient for a isolated managed network, right? Because you're probably not going to end up needing that much. Ooh, that's a new camera. Oh, wait, that camera, that's not the camera. Did I not? Now, so I can get up into the attic, you know, in much of this house. And so that would probably be where I come in and run my Ethernet cables and do kind of a specific install. Whoa. Can I see what image this thing produces? It's a wide angle. Yeah. Interesting. All right. So it's not really that much, you know, for a system like that. What? Let me go back here and type in Unify Protect. Let's see if we can get a. So the Protect system, the cameras. So you have to buy the. Do they have like a combo? Come on. These G4 bullet cameras. I haven't seen those yet. That's cool. Let's take a look at the Ubiquity networks. I have one of those dual cameras. Yeah, they look nice. They're a little wide angle. So this is the new gateway. Boy, I haven't seen this stuff in a long time. Okay, but the Reolink stuff is kind of all in one, eh? So like you don't have to buy additional ports and switches and all that stuff. Now the Cloud Key has a built-in hard drive, as I recall, which this must be the new, Cloud Gateway Ultra, which does like the recording on board. I think I would still stick with something like this that you could just physically mount. And then, you know, expand over time. Whoa, $1,300. What the heck? All right, well, I wouldn't go all in that much. I'd maybe go and do the 500 or 300, start dome cameras. What's the field of view? Oh, and by the way, one of the things that I'm really annoyed by with Reolink is their PIR sensor. It is a royal piece of crap because it goes off when there's no car, and then I'll literally walk up the driveway and it will not check. Like it won't record me walking up the driveway. And I don't know how it misses me. Like I'm a human being And the whole driveway is in great, you saw, it's in good view of the actual, oh, did I close it? I must have closed the NVR. It's in perfect view, and sometimes it will completely miss me, like hauling the trash out. Or like there was one time my wife drove in the driveway, and so the first recording was like a bird flew by, and the next one was her like walking in the garage. But it completely missed her pulling in the driveway, opening the doors, getting my son out of the car, coming inside, like completely missed it. And so I'm not a fan of the PIR recording because I don't think it's very good. I think it's actually really bad. I don't see that technology here. So maybe it's a little better. So I've been using for one of my clients, Gateway Max, PoE switch, Wi-Fi hub, and cameras they want, and they are off and running. Nice. This thing hasn't upgraded. So these are 5 megs. These are 8 megapixels. So are these ones, though. These bullet cameras. Number of channels. These black ones. What are these? They got to be 5 megs. Yeah, 5 megs. Let's go down to the reviews and look at the images. Because that's really the important. No, that's pretty good. It's all about the app. That's cool. So you get off and running with, oh, and there's a video. Let's just watch that real quick. They didn't do that, did they? No, it just fell on its own. That's good. So yeah, I mean, it looks like this would be great as long as, you know, as long as you could sit and watch it. Now, is there a web UI for this little NVR? Because this maximizes your capacity up to 12 megs and 2 hard drives. Fewer false alarms. Smart detection. It must have software Reolink. So, yeah, I might go with something like that. For $100 more, you could double the capacity? Really? Boy, that's a lot of cameras. The 4 that I really need are my outside ones first, because those are the ones that I'm watching all the time. The battery ones for the kids, I'm not watching those all the time. So I would take down the batteries outside and put in these ones. And then just trying to think of like, how do I get, I guess, yeah. Yeah. So I could light up 4 to start, and then everything go up in the attic. I'm just trying to think about where I could come down. I might actually come down in this room, put it there, and plug it into that TV. That would be cool. And nothing ever times out. It never shuts off. There's a web UI and HDMI output, and it provides a multi-viewer via the Reolink app. Like I said, I have had none of these issues that you are describing. All right, cool. As customer service less sassy to you? Or maybe you've never needed to reach out to them. What about the doorbell could stay on the other side of things. Yeah, all right. Okay, so maybe that's the next avenue that I travel down, because I'm all done with these battery powered ones. The Argus 2 Pros are great. The image quality is great, but again, it's this, they keep stopping and it's really annoying. So I'm kind of done. I might try and sell some of them or just send them on to the happy hunting ground. I don't know. When I was talking about my garage network having cables issues and self-healing mesh via APs, the Reolink camera out there stayed up too. I've never had to ever reach out to them. Yeah, just brace yourself. If they make a good product though, and it's relatively inexpensive, then that there's a trade-off there. Maybe that's one of the trade-offs. All right, the last thing I need to do is demonstrate how it was that I made my world map for the my BirdDog show ages ago. And so some of you know how this is done, but I will do this one on Earth. The first thing that you got to do is you got to make a Google form. Well, let's start this officially. Okay, so how do we make the world map? Well, based on feedback, what you're using is what I was using was Google Forms and converting that into Google Sheets, and then taking that sheet information and outputting that onto a second page that shows the data that's being collected via a world map. So just like you could output it as a graph or something like that, you could output it as a world map. So I was using this little form here that I'll show you. And what I did was I made a Google form that said, what country are you from? Join our heat map by joining the show. And then you can actually just get this this information by going to Google and saying, give me a list of all the countries in the world. And it will give you a list like this. Alphabetized is even nicer. And you can even take United States if that's the majority of your people, or Europe, or the UK or whoever, and put those at the top for ease of use. But you basically say the question, what country are you from? And then you go down and they would select their country. And then they could also enter in their closest major city. So if we just preview this form, do you want to resume collecting? Yes. So here we go. This has been, created. There's my email. What country are you from? And if I just typed in United States, just type in U, I could do this. And then what major city are you closest to? So Nashville. And then I hit submit. That's all it is. It's just a little Google form. Now, on the back side of this, we could, first of all, I will stop taking, wait, how do I do that? Responses here. So stop taking responses. Now, the United States and major city is Nashville. You take this information and you view it in Google Sheets. And inside, file is in the trash. Why is the file in the trash? Because I wasn't using it? Oh boy. Okay, so let's do that one more time. View it in Sheets. To access it, take it out of the trash. Take out of the trash. Okay, so we're back now. So what I was doing is I was taking the information, the major cities, and I was spitting that out onto a second sheet and basically converting it to a table. So I was taking this information and putting it onto this page, which is a map of the world. And one of the things that you got to do here with this data is you need to tell it whether you want it to take the cities or the countries. If you take the country, it's just going to put a dot in the middle of the United States. But if you're taking the cities, then it will put them around, in various places. Now, it's pretty good about this, but there are many cities that are named the same as other cities, not only in the United States or North America, but around the world. There are multiple places called the same thing. So you have to figure out a way to specify a little bit, because if you don't, then you will get false positives, basically, people checking in places that don't actually exist. So we can edit this chart. And what we want to say is we want responses from, this is page 2, see, form responses 2. We want it from page 2, and we want to take it from column C1 to C14. So that would be C1 to C14, okay? That is the information that's coming over here. Now, there is actually a formula that you need to use, and so I believe, though, you can just look it up. Yeah, form responses from, so you can select the column that you want, data ranges. But you need to do it from form responses to, and then whatever your column is, so that it will reference a different column on another page. That's pretty critical. But you can just say chart type geochart with markers. Okay, you can even just type that in. Geochart with markers out of Google. Here it is, maps with markers. And those are your two options. And then it'll start putting markers in these places. Now, if more than one person checks in from Nashville, so if I were to go back here and I would say preview and I would say United States, and, somebody else says, I'm checking in from Nashville, and we submit that, then we've got two responses from the same city. And so if we go back there now, we are going to see everybody else's markers are diminished, and Nashville is now represented as the most. And so you get these other places, Louisville, Hartford, Connecticut, Auburn, Minneapolis, and then Nashville has 2. And so it's green is the maximum 2 and red is 1. Now you can even change that. You can change what you want your minimums and maximums to be. And so if I don't necessarily like red, but I like purple, and I don't really like green, but I, like yellow, you can change them so that they can be your company colors or whatever you'd like to do. If you're doing a global stream, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but you'll notice here that the chart kind of is only halvesies. It's only focused on North America. That is because that is a chart option. So Geo North America region, we want to say world instead. This will show you the entire world. Now, if you're doing a podcast and your market is just the United States, you could even do just the United States, and that gives you a much bigger view. What I like to do is I would make this full screen on a secondary monitor, and then I would capture that via NDI screen capture, and then I'd bring that into my show. And so as this was being updated, oh, that's funny, Winnipeg. As this was being updated, you could see in real time. And what I would do here is this doesn't update until you actually update the... Whoa, my camera is slow. This doesn't update until you refresh this page. And so what I would use is just an extension that would be an auto refresh extension. And so it would just refresh this screen every 30 seconds. I would bring this screen in via NDI, and then as people submitted their information, it would repopulate the screen and we'd be able to see where people are from. Now, I had a global group, and so when I did this, I would say customize charts, geo, and I would say world. And that way it gave me a whole view of everybody in the world that was tuning in, and you could kind of see in real time. It's just general information. I wish that you could make the size of the max smaller, because I would make it just a different color. And so purple means that I've got, one listener in that spot, and yellow means that I've got 2, but I don't really need it to be big. I just need it to be a different color, right? So I wasn't able to figure that out as to how to change that. But that's it, and it's free. It's really simple to implement. When I wanted to do the next day, I was into this habit of just duplicating it. But then what I would do is I would just go in and I would delete all the responses in the sheet. I would just go here, page 1, delete, and then just open the form up again and share the link for the form. And then people could submit their information that way. So that's the way I made that happen. It was free. Everybody else that does world maps wants to charge you for it. But if you have a Google account, start it in Google Forms, forms.google.com. Be sure that you view in Sheets, and then you can just output your view here on a chart, make this full screen, and away you go. It's pretty simple that way. All right. Well, hopefully that was fun and informative, and you can use that. I have 2 Reolink PoE doorbells. I haven't actually got anything connected to the PoE ports on my NVR. It's just all on my regular network. That's interesting. Aaron Perecki livestream has a similar map that takes the location update in the chat. If I type India on chat, it then pops up on the map instantly, zooming in on that area and out of that location. That's cool. Is that free? Because that was my problem, is I really didn't want to pay for anything because I was cheap, and I didn't feel like I could justify the charge to BirdDog to do this. But this is free. Like, this is a totally I would love to be able to capture, for example, the data in the chat and not have people fill out the form. But yes, that would be cool to have the ability to have people just say checking in from Dubai or checking in from Mexico City or checking in from Nashville, and it would be able to like go in and check that out. That'd be really neat. Alrighty. So that is everything that I wanted to talk about. Unbelievably, I did that somehow in an hour and a half. And there we go. So hopefully you have found that informative. My coffee is not quite done. Although I need to stir it up because there is something on the top. So here we go. Cheers. The battery's still good, which is impressive because it's been up here for an hour and a half. If you pour the coffee hot beyond the temperature that you want to keep it, then this will keep your coffee hot. If you pour in like lukewarm coffee and you're heating it up in the cup, that's going to take a lot of juice to do. So be sure your battery is fully charged so you have enough juice to make that happen. But I used to also keep the charger up here, which you could just like rest. It has like a little coaster charger. I used to keep it up here for that. But now I keep it downstairs because I find that I actually use it for coffee more often when it's down next to my coffee machine. So that is why it's made regular appearances on the show. Now, also doesn't mean that I'm not drinking coffee out of other cups because they are also scattered around. This is just from today, folks. I take all these cups out of here every day, but this is cup number 5. And it's 11:30. So you don't want to see uncaffeinated John, that's for sure. Always fun, as always, John. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Thanks for coming by. It is always fun. And thanks for your input on these Reolink cameras. I'm excited to get something better. You know, I feel like I've invested a lot in my camera system, and I want it to be more resilient, and it would be great if I could connect them onto the network or just directly back to the NVR. If I could run them all back here, like the attic space above here is open, and so I could easily run them to that corner of the house, which is the driveway and the backyard. So then the question would be going over to the other side of the house, which would be, I could maybe, well, if I had those two angles, then I really just need the other corner of the house, which wouldn't be the front. The front yard is the only thing that I wouldn't be able to get. But hey, that green cable tie is eye-catchy in this frame. There it is. Yeah, and then of course it just went off frame. But yes, it's holding this little wire, which I pulled through this mount, right? It's integrated into this gator frame. I pulled it through so I'd have a little bit of extra, and then it was like super huge and it was catching on things. So I tied it down with a cable tie that arrived in a care package from my friends in Auburn Hills. So there it is. All right, guys, it's been an hour and a half. I better feed my daughter some lunch. It's 11:30 here, and she's probably getting hungry. So it has been real. I will figure out what we're going to talk about next week, and maybe some more stuff will come out. I thought for some reason that maybe Atmos was going to come out with a new multi-channel recorder because the Shogun has been discontinued. And so I'm expecting something, but maybe not. Maybe they didn't sell enough and they weren't a very good, it wasn't a very good resilient product, but I'm in the market for something like that. So I hope they're coming out with something new because that would be great. But more on that, maybe at NAB, they'll come out with that, which would be really cool because I'm hoping to be there. So, all right, let's sign off. It's been real, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Always a blast. Hopefully you have gained some sort of insight into the fun stuff that's about to come out, and also as to what my qualms are with the current Reolink security camera battery operated system, and also how to do a world map if you want to do it for free. All those things were covered today in today's show. So it's been real. Thanks so much, and we will catch you guys next week right here on YouTube or on Twitch. Be well, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you later. Bye, guys.